Hello my friends, lovely to see you here and welcome to this live class Henriette Goes Live, where you as the audience can ask any violin related questions. So if you are here and waiting for us to get started, why not use your time to write in the chat box and tell me a little bit about yourself. How long have you played the violin? Where do you live? What do you expect to get out of this class? And if you miss it, this class will be staying on my YouTube channel under the live classes, and you can watch it at a later time. So anyone who's here, welcome. And I'm hoping that we're having a lovely hour of chatting about violins and violin playing, as we usually do. And you can ask your questions by writing them in the chat box, and I will do my very best to read all the questions in the chat box and not forget one, and give you an answer to the best of my ability. Now, whilst we wait for more people to join, I'm going to answer a question that somebody has asked before under one of the videos, and that is a very, very good question. I can't remember who it is from. If there is anyone here, let's see. Oh yes, okay, good. So come and say hello in the chat box if you are here, so that I see that I'm actually talking to a person rather than just to a computer. So we're going to start off with a question that somebody has asked. And that is, like I said, a very good question, and that is what to do when you have very short fingers and you want to play on the G string. So if this person is here, come and say hello in the chat box, and I will answer that question to the best of my ability. Okay. Hello Tahura Tuhin, welcome to this class, and I will answer your question in a moment. So the first question that has come in is about playing on the G string, and what if you have very short fingers. Now that is the case, there is individual variation. Some people have longer fingers, some have shorter fingers, and when you have longer fingers, what you need to do more of is when you have shorter fingers, what you need to do more of is use your left elbow. You can probably see that when I'm moving my elbow underneath the violin, my fingers will turn towards the G string. So if I play like this, I can't reach any of my strings, can you see? Like that. But when I do that with my elbow, look, my fingers are starting to point towards the strings where I need them. So that is one thing, is moving your elbow. Okay, what you can also do is push your wrist out, because what happens if my wrist is like that, and I get many students who play like this. So if you look remotely like this, see if you can push your wrist out, because what that does is it points your fingertips towards the strings. So that, in combination with your left elbow, is going to hopefully help this person who has asked for what to do with a short pinky. Now let me have a look at the chat box, and lots of people have arrived. So Tahura Tuin, I'll ask your question in a minute. I'll answer your question in a minute. Hello Wendy, good to see you here. Anne Muldoon, hello from North Carolina. And there's somebody else, New Frontier, who says hello Henriette. Hello to you. How to bow parallel to the bridge. Okay, I'm going to start at the top. Hello from Greece. Welcome everyone. It's really nice when you all say where you are, because then I know it's not just me talking to my computer, but I know that there are people here from all over the world, which is usually the case, and I find that very exciting, that to be able to help people with their violin playing wherever they are in the world. So I don't know where you are, Tahura Tuin. When should I start learning to play with vibrato? That is a very, very good question. And you will find out when you're ready to play with vibrato, because vibrato comes when you are ready to do it. And if you're trying it and it won't come, then it's too early. Because vibrato has got a lot to do with relaxation and finding your way around the instrument, and as long as there is tension, especially in your left hand obviously, but also in your left shoulder and the way you hold your violin, if there's too much tension there, then vibrato won't come. You have to have a certain level of relaxation to be able to let your muscles, to allow your muscles to do the work, I should say. So sometimes I see students in my studio who have got a good relaxation level already, and I think, right, let's start and see if the vibrato comes. And then we're starting our exercises, and you probably know I've done this many times in live classes, how you learn to play vibrato. Come on then, let's all get your violin out and I'll show you once again. If you don't yet play vibrato, and this is especially for the person who asked the question, do this with me with your violin if you have it ready. So my first way to start to play with vibrato is I'm starting on the A string. Officially vibrato comes after you've learned to play positions, but with adults learning, I'm more flexible with that, because sometimes adults stay in that initial phase of violin playing a little bit longer, but they have the wish to be more expressive rather than children who want to just play and play the notes regardless of how expressive they are. So sometimes there is this fine balance between a musical requirement of being able to play with vibrato and a technical advancement in playing. So I start about here, sort of halfway along the fingerboard, can you see? So I'm not in the first position here, but I'm up a little bit, and I'm just going to slide, and I'm looking for a soft slide, so you don't need to work too hard to get your hand there, but you're soft enough in your fingertips to let that go and to let it slide. And you try this sliding on each of your 4 fingers. Okay, so are you trying this with me? Okay, great. Now that then will need to become regular. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and I try that on every finger, because we want the vibrato to become regular rather than sometimes fast and sometimes slow and then fast again and slow. That doesn't sound like a stylish vibrato, you see. So if you can do that and count to 4, make it even, you're well on your way. So that is step 2. Step 3 is to pretend you've got a drop of superglue on your fingertip. So you're sliding your finger like this, and then my finger can't move because my superglue is gripping. And you can see what I need to do with my finger joints. Can you see how flexible they are? Because my fingertip can't move, but my arm is still moving here. I'm getting this vibrato going. Okay? So then you try it on a different finger. So you go back to the sliding, pretend you put a drop of superglue on your fingertip. So my fingertip can't move anymore. I'll do it in slow motion so you can perhaps see it. Can you see? My finger bends and stretches, and then it bends and stretches because I'm moving my arm from my elbow. Can you see that? And that was because I was sliding, you see? So this is how it works. Now I'm not sliding, and you'll find out initially when you're first trying this, you will be sliding slightly with that fingertip, and that's okay, so long as you get these flexible joints going, because that is how you create the movement in your vibrato. So now I've done fingers 2 and 3, and I'm going to start with finger number 1. So again, I'm sliding, and I'm sliding again, starting from my elbow. So really what I was doing was this. Can you see? And that then gets transferred onto my fingertips. So I'm sliding. When I feel comfortable that goes evenly, pop a drop of superglue on my fingertip and make my joint really, really flexible there. Okay? Now this works the best in the 3rd position or thereabouts, or 4th position. That doesn't mean you have to know the 3rd position or know the 4th position, but it means you have to be comfortable coming away from the beginning of the string. This is what I'm saying. Okay? So now I can play vibrato on my first finger. I'm taking my other fingers out of the way, not because I want you to practice it like this, but simply so you can see my index finger better. So normally I'd say that would look like that with your fingers up above the strings, you see? But I'll take it away so you can see it a bit better. Okay, my thumb in the meantime is soft and opposite my index finger. Can you see that? Okay. And this is how you learn vibrato. Now, that sometimes takes a very long time, depending on how tense you are. And I always give the example of driving lessons. If you can drive a car, you may remember that first time you were driving the car, you were squeezing that steering wheel and thinking, oh, I'm really, really tense. This is the same when you start learning to play the violin. You use a lot more tension than you actually need to. And now, when you've driven a car for an X amount of years, you can hold the steering wheel really loosely. Same as the violin. If you've been playing for a while, you can be more relaxed, and when you feel that you're relaxed enough, then you can start to learn vibrato. But as I said, vibrato comes whenever the muscles are relaxed enough so that you can do all of that, you see. And before, if you're still too tight, that just won't work. So with vibrato, you have to try it. If it comes, hurrah. If it doesn't come, try it again in 3 months or 6 months' time. I'm hoping that has answered your question. Now let me go through my list and let's see how to bow parallel to the bridge. Super question. Thank you for asking. Lots of people find it very difficult to bow parallel to the bridge. So let's first imagine why we need to bow parallel to the bridge. What we actually do when we bow the bow on a string is we make the string vibrate. Now, when you pluck a string, you know that you vibrate the string the best when you pluck at right angles. Like that, you get the best vibration of the strings. And that is the same when you play with your bow. You get the best vibration if you bow exactly at right angles. You see? Now that is very, very difficult to see when you're here and your strings are at an angle this way and your bow, you can't really see what angle you're at. Now, I can see myself in the camera, so I can see whether my bow is out of kilter or whether it's straight. But there are some complicated mechanics in your bow hand here to make the bow go straight. Now I'm going to go on the D string, and if you're practicing this with me, I suggest you go on the D string as well, because it's the easiest way to find out, because it's less complicated when you've got, it's more complicated I should say when you've got an angle like this as well. So we're going fairly flat with the bow, fairly horizontal. Now if I start here and I bow parallel to the bridge, that's okay, that's okay. Okay, the problem usually arises when we're getting sort of to the upper half of the bow, when people tend to go this way. And that is because my elbow has now gone back. Can you see that? So if my elbow stays in front, I'm doing it as a mirror image in my camera. So look, my elbow, did you see that just now? My elbow's coming forward. Oops, I'm overdoing it a little bit. And my hand is pointing forwards this way, you see, which is actually straight in front of my body. Look, can you see if I sit facing the camera? So if my elbow goes this way, my bow goes not parallel to the bridge, but if my right hand goes straight in front of me, my bow stays parallel to the bridge. Okay, saying that is good knowledge. But in real life, straight bowing, as we call this, bowing parallel to the bridge, is actually curved bowing, because when, this is what I was saying, the mechanics of my hand will need to make sure that the bow is parallel all the time. So actually my wrist is curved this way when I'm playing right at the heel. I'm right at the heel, can you see? Can you see the angle of my wrist here? Okay, so my straight bow is going this way. I'm pushing the bow forwards now. Let me not overdo it this time. And now I'm straight parallel to the bridge. But it means that I have bowed this way, and the same is going to happen. I'll show you in a minute. When I'm going to play up bow, I'm going to have to point the bow forwards like this. Can you see? The point of my bow is actually facing towards my cupboard here. Can you see that? Rather than straight. So in order for me to be straight here, I need to be pointing my bow that way. Now look at my down bow again. My hand is starting to push forward. I'm overdoing it a little bit, I can see now. So what I'm doing is I'm going this way, and as I'm bowing up bow, I'm pointing it that way. And that way, when you're on your bridge here and you look at your bridge, you are straight along the bridge. Now that is a very, very complicated movement. The mechanics of straight bowing with your hand is really, really complicated. So that takes quite a while to learn. And that is why I'm always saying, start with your down bows and start fixing when you go this way. Start fixing this area first, because it's most likely, most people do it this way. Okay, so how you can cure that is by pointing your bow arm forwards. Can you see? It will also help coming a little bit closer to the bridge. But if you start by playing this area forward, you'll be fine. And then when you get a little bit further advanced and you can steer your bow a little bit better, I'm going forward. Now I'm overdoing it, can you see? So my bow goes that way, but look at my wrist and my little finger. Can you see that is allowing, when the point of my bow goes forwards, it allows the heel of my bow here, this end, to come this way, you see? So my pinky is allowing the bow to bow forwards there. I'm hoping I'm not too confusing now, but you may watch this back and see, and do it with me, see if you can work out while you play how that works. Now, I'm hoping that answered your question. Let me just go back and see where we are. Hello from Greece, Wendy from New York, Terry, good morning, good afternoon, Terry from Texas. I guess it might be quite early in the morning where you are, Terry, so welcome and thank you for joining us. Enika is here. Hello, Enika. I've been doing your 30-day violin beginner guide and it's been so helpful. G3 MSX, thank you very much. That's really, really nice to hear, and that's why I made it. I've made it to be helpful. So try and keep on going with this course. Maybe you've already finished it. I can't work that out from what you've said. But I am always astounded at you guys learning to play the violin by yourself. Sometimes people book a lesson to fix one or two little things, and then they show me how they've learnt the violin by themselves. And time again, I am pleasantly surprised by what I see. So you're all following the lessons in such detail, and that is really, really nice. Coming back to the vibrato exercises, Tahura Tuin says, when I try to do those vibrato movements, my violin also shakes and moves. That is quite normal, yes, that you get these. You're trying to do violin, but I fear that there is still a little bit too much tension, because if that moves, you're having to work too hard, which is okay. You can try it. And when I learned to play the violin a short while ago, we had slightly more old-fashioned ways of playing, I guess. I'll show you this. And my teacher told me a little trick. I never use that again in my practice, but since you mentioned, we might do it. So I'm having the cloth that I write my violin with, and I lean it against a wall, and you might like this, and then try a vibrato like that. You see, so you can slide, you can slide, and that way your violin will be stopped, so you can't shake the violin unless it can slide away like mine does, and then you can try it. So if you've never tried this before, And who hasn't tried this before? Let's see in your chat box. Have you tried that before? Leaning the violin scroll against a wall. Thursday or Friday of next week, which is all about position changing. So write a note in your diary so that you check that out. At the end of next week, it will be live. And this shows position changing on the same string. And let me start by talking about that first of all. When we change position, we change like this, don't we? We go from the first position to the third position and back. Now, when I change position and I'm analysing very precisely what happens, let me see if I can turn this down a tiny bit. Look what happens to my elbow when I change position. We were talking about the elbow earlier, so that comes really nicely. You see my wrist is nice and straight. Have a look what happens to my elbow. Can you see that my elbow comes in slightly? Look here. I'll exaggerate it a little bit. Can you see that? We'll come to changing strings at the same time in a moment, okay? Now, if my elbow comes in and I want to shift, I'm going to give it a bit of momentum by going and hop. And I'll do that again. So I'm shifting from a lower position to a higher one and hop. You see? Similarly, when I'm going from a higher position to a lower position, I could push this elbow under a little bit further and then swing back. So when I'm changing position, I'll just give it a little bit of momentum. This is like similar to when you throw a ball. If you throw a ball and you push it, every person that does a little bit of sport knows that that is not going to be a good throw. We give it momentum by swinging it and then throwing it. And that's the same principle. And hop, you see? Now, if we shift to a different finger, let's say I'm going to shift from the first finger on the A string to the third finger on the E string. First of all, the golden rule in position changing is in the new position, you need to play the last finger that you played in the old position first. So I'm going to shift from a first finger on the A string to a third finger on the E string. So my first rule is my last played finger, which is the first finger on the A string, needs to go first, needs to be my first finger in the new position. So I'm giving it this swing, I'm playing 1. And then you add 3. So that is in essence how you do it. But, okay, so let me do that again. First finger to first finger, then add your new finger. Some schools of violin playing teach it slightly differently though, and they teach place your third finger on the E string first and then slide to the third finger on the E string. And that very much depends on the style of music that you play, which method you might use. In general terms, I would say when you're learning to play the violin, you use the golden rule is the last finger in the old position becomes the first finger in the new position. And you can use that as what's called your auxiliary note. Apologies to all of you who have never played position changes before. Eventually you might come across these strange words. Auxiliary notes are like helper notes that help you find the new position. So the last played finger in the old position becomes the first played finger in the new position. And then you add the finger that you need. But like I said, and you do this in Baroque music, you do it this way. Add that finger. In romantic music, you might like to slide to that third finger here. So you might, during the slide, let your third finger come closer and then slide it on the string. I'll show you what that sounds like. So if I'm going like this, 1, 1 first. I'm going to C natural. That's my shift. So I'm shifted 1, 1 on the A string, then added the third finger. Okay, now I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to slide. I'll do it slow motion for you and talk you through. 3, you go 1, 3 straight away. But in classical music, and that is mostly what we do in this channel, what I teach the most of. You use the auxiliary note 1, 1, and then you add your 3. Okay, very helpful. Okay, that's really nice. With respect to all channels, you are the best and I have the training. Thank you from Ahed Safadi from Jordan. Thank you very much. That's really, really nice to hear. Feel free, everyone, to share my videos amongst your friends, about amongst all the violin players that you know, because I'm out of my head. I can't believe this, that we've nearly got 21,000 subscribers. How did that even happen? But it's just lovely to see that you all are here and that you're all enjoying playing with my videos. So I am very, very grateful to you guys. So thank you. That's nice to hear. Epic says, where do you place the left hand thumb? Hilary and Ray Chen style. Oh my goodness, I don't know what Hilary and Ray Chen style are, but I do know what generally is perceived as a good way of playing, positioning the thumb. So officially, according to the textbooks, your thumb should be somewhere opposite your index finger and middle finger, somewhere in that area, opposite from your index finger and middle finger. There we go. Can you see better now? Ah, I'm struggling today with my mirror image. Can you guess why? Look what happens to my wrist if my thumb goes behind my first finger. Or your thumb's also, let's see. There we are. I can see it now. Sorry if the line dropped. I'm hoping that you're back again. Can somebody write in the chat box, please, whether you can still see me and hear me? I just got a flashing red light. Anyway, so my thumb, not allowed to go here for obvious reasons. It's much less bad if your thumb is too high, but this is clearly too high. It will start to pull up your hand this way, you see? Okay, so all here, good. That gives me confidence that I'm again not talking just to a blank screen. Okay, so your thumb should be opposite your middle finger or index finger. Not allowed to go this way of your index finger and not allowed to go that way of your second finger. That's where your thumb should be, forward and backward. Up and down, your thumb should be sticking up above the fingerboard for about half a nail's height. That depends on whether you like to play a little bit more like this or whether you like to play a little bit more like that. But what is not advisable is that your thumb goes way there. Why not? Because it pulls my fingers down. You remember, this ridge of knuckles here needs to be level with the strings. So if my thumb goes too far down, it pulls my fingers down to below the strings, you see. So you want to bend your fingers more and make sure that your thumb, here you can maybe see it just like that. My thumb sticks up for about half a nail up above the fingerboard. I'm hoping that has answered your question. Let me see, where do we place the left hand thumb? Is there a way, this is Nikolaos Papapanaglotou. This is the person from Greece, I guess, isn't it? Is there a way to release the tension in the left arm? I find that I grip the neck very tightly without realizing. Yes, again, a very common issue. Lots of people play like that. And this is, I don't know how long you've been learning to play, Nikolaos, because this is the sort of tension that I was referring to when I first had my first driving lesson. I'm going like that, you see? So that will gradually release over time, but you can do things to speed that up. First of all, make a habit of whenever you play open strings to just tap this thumb and wriggle your elbow. And that way you just open up your shoulder a little bit. Like you can see if I do that with my elbow. Can you see my shoulder move? And it gives me a little bit of space. It allows the blood to flow better into your shoulder and into your arm. So it will help you relax your muscles of your left hand. So whenever you have an open string or whenever you feel I can easily play this note. I totally get it when some fingers are so difficult that you need to just squeeze it a little bit harder, and that's okay in the initial stages. It's no use for me to say to my pupils, now relax, and I know that a lot of people do, a lot of teachers do that. Just relax. Just relax is totally impossible when you're a beginner violinist. So this is one of your tricks. Release the tension in your thumb, release the tension in your elbow, and gradually over time, but I'm talking a period of 3 months, and then suddenly at some point you'll say, did I just play that without squeezing? And that is when it will start to grow on you. But initially it is just very hard. So it will come. As with anything that you learn new and that you then settle into, it will come, but just give it time. Anne says, never tried that wall trick. You remember I was showing you the wall trick with the vibrato. So give it a go, Anne, and maybe, just maybe, you'll find it easier after a while. First time seeing this. Okay, my teacher told me about the wall trick. Yeah, it is. I guess it is maybe a little bit more old-fashioned, but maybe that is just me thinking that. I don't know. Kirsty says, hello, when travelling, the weather was between +19 on a day and +5 at night. What can I do to protect the violin from temperature going up and down? That is a very good question, and I'm always surprised. I mean, I used to travel quite a lot with my violin, and I travelled to very warm countries especially, and then you come back to where I live, sometimes very cold. You can see it's May. I'm wearing my woolly jumper. It's freezing cold here in Norwich. But what you can, violins are super resilient. So most of the time you don't need to do anything. If it's comfortable for you, then it's comfortable for your violin. So be careful you don't leave it in a car in the hot sunshine, or at home you don't place your violin next to a radiator. But what you can do in this case, and this is why some cases have got like a little blanket, just put the blanket on the top. That acts like a little insulation, or maybe you've got a scarf or an old tea towel that you could wind around it, just so you insulate it a little bit from those temperature changes. But the most important thing is to not leave it either in a hot car or next to a hot radiator. And you wouldn't yourself go and sit in your garage or in your freezer, so you wouldn't put your violin there, would you? So common sense. If it's good for humans, it's okay for violins as well. Yeah, you can all hear it. Thank you for the lesson. Have a go at work. Thank you. Working on cadenza tango, shifting to 5 positions is a hard thing to... Yes. Shifting to 5 position, hard thing. Can you do? Okay. I have got a really nice position changing exercise. So I've showed you the elbow swing, haven't I? The higher you go to a higher, if you go to a higher position, you need relatively more swing to get there because you are traveling a longer distance along the string. One thing that also helps is to let gravity do your work. And as I said, next week's short, YouTube short, which will come out next week, will help you as well. So it shows the elbow swing, but it also shows you the simple trick of letting gravity help you. So if I want to shift up, I'm raising the scroll of my violin up a little bit because it helps me. It helps my hand fall down this way. Sounds so obvious, doesn't it? When I shift down to a lower position, I want my violin to go down a bit, and it helps me go up. You see? So this is how you do it. Let gravity help you. This is a really strange way. People sometimes say, oh, is it that simple? No, it's not that simple, but it does help. But when you play positions, try this. I have no idea how this is going to sound. I'm going to practice my shifting from a first finger in the first position to a first finger in the second position, back to the first position. Now I'm shifting to the third position, back to first, fourth position, back to first, fifth position, back to first, sixth position, back to first, seventh position, eighth position. So I'm going here. Look at my elbow. So I've just practiced shifting eighth positions, okay? You can do this 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, whatever you like. You can also do from a first position to a first finger to a second finger. Then you just go like this. And so on. You see, I can change my fingers. I can go to a third finger and shift from the first finger to the third finger. I can also go from the 8th position back to the 7th position. You see how I do that? So you can use this as your warm-up and practice all your positions in one go. Okay? All your position changes in one go. It's a lovely warm-up. You just need to get a hang of it, but it's very useful as a skill to know where your positions are. This is for shifting between one position to another one. Okay? If you want to practice, because hang on, there was working on this thing, shifting to 5 position, the 5th position maybe. If you want to practice the 5th position, in my view, it's the easiest position because you play the exact same fingers as you would in the first position, except you play them a string lower, you see. So I don't know if that is what you mean. But if you want to practice individual positions and get really good at those, my go-to method is to do them at Christmas. And I'll tell all my pupils to play this Christmas carol that they know really, really well in the 2nd position. And then the following day, the following lesson, they pick a different Christmas carol and they play it in the 3rd position. And then the next week they play a different Christmas carol and they play it in the 4th position. And that's unusual to do that, but because you know the song so well, and you can do it with any song that you know or old pieces that you've learned in the past, just say to yourself one day, right, ban the 1st and 2nd and 3rd positions. I'm going to do it all in the 4th or 5th. Super good exercise. So have a go at trying that. And it's just nice to do on a rainy Sunday afternoon, just to keep the mind busy. Give yourself a little challenge. I'm hoping that is what you meant. So I'm hoping that has helped you. Is there anyone else who wants to ask a question? Or perhaps sort of contemplate a bit more on what we have said? Somebody else underneath some video has asked me the question, how can you avoid making a scratchy sound? And I find that is quite an interesting comment as well, and perhaps some of you might be helped by thinking about that for a moment. When you play the violin and you play it with your bow, there are many different things that you can consider, isn't it? So we have got one aspect is how much bow to use. The second aspect is how much speed on the bow to use. And the third aspect is how much weight of the bow to use. So these things you can vary, and when you get a scratchy sound, the relationship between bow length, bow speed and bow weight, of course there's also the contact point, I'll take that into consideration as well. There is something not quite right when you play with a scratchy sound. Now, usually in beginners, what has happened when you get a scratchy sound is that the weight is too great in relation to the speed of the bow. So I could go, excuse my sound right now, I could go very slowly with my bow, play with a bit more weight than I would like. You can see I'm going to increase the speed now, so I'm scratching it. I keep the weight the same and increase the speed, and suddenly my sound becomes clearer, you see. I could also play with a lot of length and too little weight. I'm losing the intensity of the sound now, you see. Now I'm going a little bit closer to the bridge, and I'm going to play super fast with very much weight. And then suddenly you get actually quite a reasonable sound. So you can have a lot of weight so long as the speed is really great, but you can't play with a lot of weight when the speed is really slow. So speed, weight, bow length and contact point are 4 variables that you can vary in many different ways. So one of those is not right, usually the weight in relation to the speed, if you play with a scratchy sound. So how can you avoid it? My first go-to method is to use longer bows, and then you can vary all the other things. And that then gradually evolves into how you can add tone colors to your playing, because you use the same principle if you want to play one piece with a slightly brighter sound because it's a more jolly piece compared with another piece which might be a sad song, where you'd play maybe with a bit more weight, maybe a little bit further from the bridge. So you can vary that depending on the style of music that you want to create in your different pieces. So observing that you want to find ways to how to avoid playing with a scratchy sound is setting you up really well for being more expressive later on. So if you were the person asking this question, how to avoid making a scratchy sound, you're really thinking along the right lines to become a good violin player. So a few more questions here. Linda says, when starting to play a piece of music, I always struggle to know which part of the bow I should use. Are there any rules? Yes, of course, there are some, I wouldn't say rules, but some common placings of the bow. First of all, what you might consider is whenever you play a first beat of the bar, considering, let's pretend that you're playing 4/4 time. And so you've got an even number of notes in the bar. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The 1 is always the strongest, and then you get a secondary accent on the third beat of the bar. Okay, so my first beat of the bar, if it's the strongest, should probably be falling in a down bow. And that way you play with the music rather than against the grain of the music, if you see what I mean. So that is one thing. So that means if you have one beat upbeat, it will start up bow and it will bring you to the heel of the bow, so that the next first beat of the next bar will be down bow. So those are conventions, shall we say. Okay. But then it depends very much on the speed, because if you want to play very, very fast pieces, so I'm saying first beat of the bar, I want to play down bow, but I have to play really, really fast. It's much easier to play very short bows in the middle and upper half of the bow than it is here. Okay, and especially if you want to do that with very flexible fingers. So it depends on the speed, it depends on which beat of the bar you are in. Generally, I would say you use as much bow as you can possibly use, and that helps with bow division. So I remember you putting a comment in one of the videos where it was very clear that there were 2 types of note, weren't they? Minims or half notes and crotchet or quarter notes. Then of course I'm aiming to play the longer notes with the longer bows and the shorter notes with half bows, for instance. And that is a very, very good starting point, so that you always get the notes in relation to other notes that are there. And then you can play 4-count notes with the super slow bow, still using the whole bow, you see. But the faster your music becomes, the shorter bows you are going to have to use. So the basic outline is use as much bow as you can, but then if the music is too fast, you're going to shorten your bow strokes. And that, I think, will be that will save most situations, I think. So think about the counting in the bar. The heaviest beat in the bar, when you're playing 3 time, it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. To the 1, you want to probably start down bow. It's not all set in stone, and some people say to me under videos sometimes, but last week you said I should play the crotchets with a half bow, and now I need to play them with a whole bow. So it's flexible. Use as much bow as you can, as the golden rule, but the faster your music goes, shorten your bow strokes. I'm hoping that helps you and not confuses you more. Necessary to make some flexibility exercise to the hands before training. Good question, that. Thank you for asking that. The views are divided on this, isn't it? For sports people, of course, you do a warm-up before you tire out your muscles and run a marathon or so. For violinists, in my personal experience, I've always found if I warmed up too much, I lost my spontaneity in my performance. So I tend to warm up very little, because when I go for it, I really want to go for it and not spend half an hour practicing all sorts of exercises that are supposedly making me more flexible. Actually, I want to be flexible straight away. So it may well be a very personal thing. I see other videos on YouTube that say, don't you forget to warm up before you play. It might work for some people, but maybe not for others. So you might just do that. You don't need to play scales. You might just warm up your fingers to do that. I think if you unpack your violin, you've already used your muscles so much that you may be okay. Very personal, I'd say. Hello, Nee. Someone has written some very enthusiastic violins and hearts. And what is that? The Italian flag. Where are you from? I think it's Italian flag, isn't it? Apologies if I get it completely wrong. I'm watching the Giro d'Italia, not because of the cycling. Yeah, of course, a little bit about the cycling, but I'm watching the Giro because I love Italy. Did you know that? Simply because I see your Italian flag there. Nicolaos says, how many times should we go through the prime strings book lesson? 2 to 3. I'm still playing. Okay, that is a very good question. And actually, there will be a video coming on just that as well. So that will be coming probably next week or the week after. This is a question that I can ask quite a lot because people are playing online and they don't know. Their teacher doesn't tell them, okay, you need to do this exercise again for next week. I've said this before, I think, maybe in a live class or so, I can't remember. I tend to leave pieces on the music stand for about 3 weeks. If you get a new piece, of course, the first week you just need to get to know the notes and the time signature and the key signature and figure out how the bowing is and so on. So that takes most people about a week to learn to get to know the piece. Then when you can play it without any mistakes, the second week that you play your piece, you can perhaps perfect it even more and add some louds and softs and getting all your bowings right and not forget about some of the slurs or the slowing down or speeding up that's in your music. And then there is usually a third week where you perfect it even more, so that you might make your piece so reliable so that you cannot possibly make any more mistakes, so you know it very deeply, almost off by heart. And that is the time when you can perform your piece to family and friends and so on. So how many times should you go to the lessons? 2 or 3 times? I would say 2 or 3 weeks every day. So how many times is that? How many times do you all practice a week? Do you practice twice a week, 3 times a week, absolutely every day? Or do you practice like twice a day? Let's see if I can do a poll. Here at the bottom of your text box, you can see 3 icons. Can you see? The first one is what do you call this? An icon. An emoji, that is what it is. The second one is if you want to support Pro Strings, you can click on that and buy super thanks or super stickers. And let me now see if we can do a poll. I've never done this before. So my question in the poll is, how much do you play? It's a little game. I know I'll put it different. Do you play every day? Every day. Yes or no? Okay. Most weeks. Let's do it that way. Let's see what we get. That's a bit of a learning point for me then. Do a poll. I try to practice for an hour every day, usually in the night. Wow. Try every day. Let's see. Oh, how do I get to the results? Hang on a second. I can't find my results box now, guys. Oh, yes. 83% says yes, and 17% says most weeks you play every day. Wow! And this is why my students on YouTube are making such good progress. I mean, consistency is key to good progress, isn't it? So you do all play, or most of you play every day. And this is why you're making such good progress. I am well in awe of you. I was in awe of you already, but even more so right now, because that is a lot more than I always do. I mean, you know that I'm learning Chinese. Yes, for me it's a really good experience learning a completely new skill as an adult, because I can compare how that feels and how my pupils would feel learning to play the violin, you see. Now, I struggle practicing Chinese for more than 3 days a week. So this is astounding. Well done, you. Really, really good. Now, let me see, what else have we got? I usually start with a video of the lesson and then do it for about an hour. I just don't know, I should do the same lesson 2, 3 or more times. I think you might watch it more often, because when you're in the heat of your playing, you might just not pick up little details that, and maybe you know from experience whether that is the case or not. Just watch it again and see if there's anything else that you may have missed on the first time. I mean, I like to watch Netflix films sometimes, if they're good ones, another time, and there's completely different things that I haven't seen the first time. So yeah, maybe that is helpful. Okay. Now then, that was a really fun session. Thank you all for your very, very useful questions. We've got about 2 more minutes. So anybody who's got a really, really important question to ask, please do so now. And I leave you with my PayPal number, and that is info@proamstrings.com. I'll write it in here. If you want to support Pro Strings, please go ahead and make a donation there. Strings, that's probably the easiest. And I thank you very much for your support. Those of you who are members of Henriette's Violin Club, you massively support this channel, and you massively encourage me by being a supporter, by making more and different style videos. So I'm trying my hardest to do that. So thank you so much to all of you. to visit and revisit and revisit the channel again. Please spread the word, and I very much look forward to seeing you again really soon. Thanks for watching, and this video will stay on the channel for you to watch again later.